Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Patrick Lewis, who is the Vice President of Customer Experience at rethinkCX. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I am doing fantastic and I'm absolutely delighted to be joining you on that podcast today. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Pleasure is all mine to have you on. Really excited to dive into your background. So, without further ado, let's make a start. So, Patrick, if you can perhaps take us to the early years of your journey, perhaps, the beginnings of, where you found the passion, what you did perhaps growing up, and what you did, through the stages, and how you got to the position you're in today.
Absolutely. I began my career in the hospitality industry. Funny enough, way back then in France, in Paris, this is where I'm originally from. I didn't know what customer experience was. I always knew that I wanted to be part of it, not necessarily in a specific industry, but I had the chance to be part of the hospitality industry that led me to really enjoy what customer experience is about, which is serving the customer and delivering phenomenal experiences at the end of the day. So I began in the hospitality industry, but I fairly pivoted quickly in the insurance and banking industry, specifically with ING Direct. So I had the pleasure to work with ING Direct in France, launching the call center and moving up in the ranks. That was great. And then same thing, I had the chance to meet with a few people from AIG, which is the insurance home base out of the US, within the same, I would say, experience and facility, which was customer experience, talking to the customers, writing to the customers, and really understanding what they make off of it. And then after that, moved to Canada, literally 20 years ago, but always within the same customer experience world, depending on the industry. So in Canada, I went back to ING Direct. Same thing, the VP of Customer Experience. And this is where my customer experience world took an interesting turn. So I had the chance to meet with Brian Scudamore, which is the founder and CEO of 1-800-GOT-JUNK, the junk removal company in Vancouver. And then I moved there. Same thing. So you see different industries within the same customer experience world. And then I had the chance to be headhunted by Lululemon.
Wow.
Working for Lululemon for 4 years, within the same, I would say, exercise, which is talking to customers, being able to understand what they want, what they need, and delivering the same experience that the store was delivering. So for me, it was like, how do we connect the dots between brick and mortar and offline? That was very interesting because very successfully we did that. And then in 2015, same thing, I had the chance to be headhunted by Canada Goose. And that was really the beginning of something big because at that time, Canada Goose was really into wholesale. So everything that was manufactured was passed on to wholesalers, 100% of the manufacturing from the Macy's of the world, Holt Renfrew of the world. And then in 2015, Danny Reese, who is the CEO of Canada Goose, wanted to take, the company from 100% wholesale to direct to consumer. And this is where I came into play. So same thing, managing the world of customer experience and the call center. I had the chance to take the call center from zero to, when I left, close to 200 agents, which was fantastic, from recruiting, system, processes, procedures, technology. That was very, very good, a phenomenal experience. And then in 2022, I left CG and then I went to work for Majiri, which is one of the Canadian brand from jewelry. And then a year ago, I decided to go from, retail to my own business with a business partner. And this is where I am currently today with rethinkCX. And this is where we provide, with everything I've collected in terms of experiences, now I give back. So I help organizations to really understand what is their customer experience journey from people recruiting, process, procedure, technology, journey mapping, customer journey mapping, methodology of understanding the customer experience, and how do you measure loyalty from NPS to CSAT. So, and helping them also understand how do you build from the ground up your call center from zero to whatever you want, but also what do you think about internal versus hybrid versus offshore? So I help them navigate through all those, big question marks that they may have so that they can get better.
Amazing. And Patrick, what part of your journey right, do you think you learned the most? You know, what part of your journey did you need to make that shift from perhaps working in a big corporation and perhaps having the courage to take that leap of faith and start something of yourself? Where do you think you that shift came? Was it a passion you've always wanted to do? Was it something you were born with, or is that something perhaps you kind of felt like this is the time you needed to make that leap? What kind of changed?
I think I really believe it was the time to take that leap of faith with my business partner. But I would say specifically because many organizations would come to me and say, we need help, we need help, we need help, without necessarily having the headcount on their payroll. They may have needed that one time in the year to say, you know what, we need help on customer experience. What does that mean? We need help on selecting the serum. We may not need someone full time, but we may need that 3 months, 4 months, even a year worth of help to say, help us out, and then we'll get better. It was really the demand. Let's put it that way. The demand was there.
Got it. Amazing. And what is the biggest shift you've had to make mindset wise to allow you to elevate to the next position? You know, what do you think somebody else in your position, what change would they need to make? Because not everybody can make that leap of faith. Not everybody can successfully transition. So what do you think the biggest mindset shift or barrier is holding people back?
I think it's, when you work for an organization, you see everything, you touch everything. You have the possibility to make a decision and make it happen. When you're in the consultancy industry, you're there to propose, recommend, guide, shift. And then once a decision is made, you make it, but then you walk away. So you don't necessarily have the chance to see, the impact on what you recommended long term. You see it potentially short term, but not necessarily long term. So you have to be okay with that, right? You have to be okay to say, you know what? It is my baby for now, but the baby will have to grow with someone else. But you have to be okay with that. It's not necessarily for everybody, but you have to be okay with that.
Got it. Amazing. Now, Patrick, what does your typical day look like? Are you very much focused on the company growth and taking it to the next level? Are you very much focused on working with clients and delivering that best service possible? What does a typical day look like for yourself at your role at rethinkCX?
To me, it's really about how do I expose rethinkCX to the rest of the world? Because even though I know a lot of people in the industry, from who I cross path with to LinkedIn to every other area of how you connect, but it's really about how do I expose rethinkCX to the rest of the world? So I spent a lot of time to reconnect, connect, understand the need in the market. So then I can be prepared to say, you know what, you need to rethink CX. So it's really about discovering and maneuvering through how do I market, the Rethink CX brand to the rest of the world, not only North America, but worldwide. So that takes a lot of time.
Amazing. Amazing. So Patrick, coming on to the next topic, which is the market trends, right? Market trends and shifts. So what kind of market trends or perhaps shifts in the industry have you seen? How do you think those trends and shifts are going to pan out in the next 6 to 12 months? And how do you think business owners can sort of navigate these changes that are constantly happening in your experience?
So I see two trends. The first one is customer experience is forefront, whether it's brick and mortar, whether it's online, offline, social media. Social media has a massive impact on how a brand will evolve and how a brand will expose itself to the rest of the world. That's one. The other one is AI. A lot of a brand wants to talk about AI, the connection, the integration, the cost saving. Let's face it, the cost saving around AI. And then how do we make AI part of our daily business, whether it's, again, brick and mortar retail, offline, online? How do we create AI in a self-serve, I would say, mechanism for customers? Because at the end of the day, what we want is to blur the lines between a human touch and the AI touch. The one thing you don't want is an AI being so robotic that customers are going to say, you know what? I'm through with you because you're putting me through hoops that I do not like. Or I would say not even worse, but not specifically a great journey, which is I'm connecting you to an AI, but you do not find what you're looking for. Therefore, I'm going to connect you to a human. That's a waste of time. Consumers do not like that. So it's really about, a lot of, organizations talking about AI, AI, AI. But what we need to focus on is what is the technology behind AI? What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to deliver to the customer? So then the technology behind the scene will be so efficient that the customer will be happy with the service that I'm providing. So two things, customer experience and AI technology.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. And Patrick, you made a good point, and I want to dive into this if possible. A big trend that's blown up last 10, 15 years, and only going to get even bigger, is social media. And I know you touched on
Yes.
it, but how big of an influence has social media made to the success of businesses and companies? What are some ways businesses can use social media to their advantage? And what are some common pitfalls and, traps that companies can find themselves perhaps getting caught in, and how can they avoid these problems and pitfalls when it comes to social media? What is your overall thoughts on that?
This is social media. You have to be true to yourself. You have to relay the values of your organization, what you stand for, not to be, cheesy or fake, but you have to relay and stand for and showcase what you stand for. Customers will appreciate that. The pitfall is you're pushing it so far, so deep that it ends up being fake. And consumers will walk away from you because they're going to say, wait a minute, I don't understand that. I don't understand that vision because when I walk in your store or when I interact with your people on the phone, email, live chat, what have you, it's a different feeling. I don't see that or I feel this. So be true to yourself. Don't push it. Relay the values, relay the message that you stand for, but don't be fake about it. Don't try to be more than what you are. Don't be less, of course, but don't try to be more than what you are just to try to be even better. You don't need to be better. You just need to be true to yourself and relay the message.
Got it. Amazing. And a big sub trend of the back of social media is this is obviously blown up as well, is the founder led content, right? Before you might have had the CEO or the founder or the owner kind of being behind camera, behind the scenes, and maybe, you know, investing a lot in the brand logos. Whereas now it's the flip. You're seeing business owners and founders kind of coming out on social media, having a personal brand, creating video content, giving the expertise. Is that something you've seen? Is that something you've started to take advantage of, or is that something you're not really diving into just yet? And what are your thoughts on founder-led content where, the execs are kind of coming out and creating that content and creating that personal brand that people can relate to?
I would say it goes back to what I was saying. As long as whether it's the founder is saying something, you have to be true to yourself. You have to relay the message, the vision that allowed you to create your organization, your company. You have to relay that. You have to find the right words. You have to find the right moment to talk about it, not necessarily being on video on the market every single day, but to find those specific moments that will be able to bring your customers to you, tag them along, bring them along the journey, and they will understand that. You don't necessarily have to be there every day, but if you're there in the right moment with the right message, with the right environment, that will go very, very well and a long way. Just one example, I think that there's one individual that is doing this very, very well. Again, it's one of my, former boss, Brian Scudamore of 100 Got Junk. He is like so good at that, very genuine, very down to earth, yet he's relaying the message of what he believes in, what the company is about, but more specifically, how he can elevate not only his organization, but the people working with him. He's really, really good at that. That's a fantastic example for sure.
Amazing. Very well said, Patrick. Now, if we come onto the business side of things, right? What are some areas of the business that you think are going really, really well, strength to strength, and they're only getting better? Could be anywhere, sales, marketing, operations. And what are some areas of the business that perhaps you're having some challenges and some hurdles? And how are you looking to perhaps overcome them in the next few months to come? What are your overall aspects on the business?
I would say technology is going a long way. I think technology helps organization do better. Whether it's, again, AI, social media, chat GPT, I'm like, you know what? You don't know how to write? You got the idea, you've got, content that you want to create. I wouldn't say that ChatGPT or Gemini or Krog is, the perfect example of the perfect tool, but I think that tools are helping people get better at what they're doing. So really in that area, I think that organizations should take advantage of that more often than not. But again, it goes back to how much do I use it so that then it doesn't sound robotic or it doesn't sound too nice, too pretty. Like you still want to have that human aspect in that kind of using that tool. So I would say that's the positive. That's where I'm seeing like things getting better. On the negative, I don't know if it's a negative, by the way, but it's about how do you stretch yourself so thin in terms of, again, communication, too many products. Sometimes you've got a lot of breadth, you don't have depth in the product that you put on the market. And consumers may be like, oh, wait, that's way too much. You're supposed to be like doing that, and your palette of offerings is a little bit too much. And I don't really recognize myself in your brand. So that for me is you have to be careful what you offer, not necessarily try to outsmart competition. I've seen that. Like, competition is good, don't get me wrong. But if you try to outsmart the competition in the wrong way, in the wrong doing, you may lose yourself. You may lose customers around the street.
Amazing, Patrick. Thank you. Now, if we can talk about the future, right? Yeah, I'm sure you've got big goals and aspirations for yourself and even bigger goals and aspirations for the business. But if you can, walk us through perhaps the next 6 to 12 months, what does that look like? What are some big goals on the vision board for you and your business partner? Is there some metric-based goals or is it impact-based goals? And perhaps if you're looking back on things 50 years from now, what do you want to leave behind? What kind of impact do you want to make on the industry and perhaps on people's lives?
A big goal for us, of course, is landing more customers, but I would say not at any cost. I think that I really want to work with organization that I believe in the values, I believe in the product, I love the product. I understand that they can go potentially to the next level of custom experience. That for me is really something that I really believe in and something that I will never compromise on. That's for sure. The other thing is, how do I get exposure? So what I mean by that, exposure and sharing. What I mean by that is I've been in the business for quite some time. And for me, it's like, how do I share what I've learned along the way with soon to become leaders? So supervisors, managers, directors. So what I'm trying to do more often than not is what are the conferences that I would love to speak to, be in front of people so I can share what I've learned along the way. So again, I'm trying to elevate what the next leaders in the customer experience world may be facing as a problem. I'm like, hey, I may not have the answer, but here's my answer. That might help you because I've been through this. If that helps, that's fine. If it doesn't help, that's fine too. But put it in your back pocket. And at some point in your journey, you may say, wait a minute, I spoke to Pat 2 years ago. He taught me this and this and this. Let me take it out of the shelf and let me see if I apply it. It's going to work. So for me, it's like, I'm trying to pass the baton to the next leaders of customer experience. That's what I'm trying to do.
Amazing, amazing. And if we to wrap up on what is the biggest piece of advice you've received from somebody, either a partner, a manager, or anybody, or perhaps the biggest lesson you learned in your journey of entrepreneurship that perhaps somebody listening now could really benefit from?
Be unafraid, take risks.
Okay.
That for me was like, again, it was through AIG, one of my mentors. She told me like, be unafraid, take risks, fail fast, fail small, learn, move on. So that really, I'm always trying to take those four, I would say, pillar. Again, fail fast, fail small, move on. That's it.
Amazing.
I think like take risks, be unafraid.
Amazing. Could you give us perhaps an example of maybe a risk that you took, or perhaps some sort of incident of where you took the risk, it didn't work out, but the sort of outcome of that was such a huge beneficial success, maybe in your career or maybe in business recently, that perhaps people can understand the advice a little bit more, perhaps with context?
Consulting.
Okay.
That's the one. because I was very comfortable in what I was doing, very comfortable. And I wouldn't say it was now or never, but it was like, is it time? You can take the risk. We'll see. We'll see. So far, so good. I'm knocking on wood. So far, so good. But yeah, that was the latest biggest risk we took.
Amazing. Well, Patrick, thank you so much. It's been an amazing podcast episode. I've really enjoyed myself. So much value you've provided, so much insight. I can't thank you enough. And I'm sure everyone watching really does appreciate it. So big thank you. And it's been a pleasure having you on today. Is there any final comments or closing thoughts before we do wrap up? Anything for any potential customers, business people, anyone looking up to you, your team, anybody, perhaps closing comments or thoughts you'd want to pass before we do wrap up?
Well, I would say take a look at rethinkCX.com if you've got like questions, problems to solve, or even to share a few things with customer experience from, how do I set up a call center, customer experience, methodology of loyalty gathering, technology, tech stack. Reach out. More than happy. rethinkCX.com.
Amazing. Patrick, thank you so much. And everyone who have tuned in today, big thank you. And we'll catch everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Stay safe.
Perfect.